What is your best met the high school bully as an adult story? I ran into a high school classmate a while back. A guy in high school just didn't like me and I him. We got into a big damn fight. He broke my nose and I knocked a couple of his teeth out, off campus. No police were involved, but about 10 years later I saw him sleeping on the street near where I worked. I woke him up and asked him what was going on. He told me about his life after high school. He knocked up his girlfriend, her parents made them get married, divorce a year later. He got into drugs and ended up alienating everyone. I asked him if he was still using and he said no, he couldn't buy a dose anyway. I felt bad for him, so I asked if he'd like to stay in my guest house, a one-room cottage, set up like an efficiency apartment, for a while. He took me up on it and got a night's sleep in an actual bed for the first time in years, his words. I bought him some clothes and fed him for about a month until I found him a job with a contractor I was doing some work for. Long story short, it's been 6 years. He now owns a contracting business, has a wife and a new baby boy, and just bought the house down the street from me. Good for you, man. Being the bigger person is much better than stewing in bitter immature revenge. My then fiancé took me out to dinner in my hometown where we had our first date to celebrate my new promotion. I recognized our waitress right away as the girl who had been mean to me in 6th and 7th grade, the only years we had classes together. She didn't seem to recognize me. I had gained a lot of weight and the restaurant was dark, so I let it go and treated her like any other waitress. When the bill came, I asked my now husband how we should tip. She was a great waitress and deserved a generous tip like we usually do, but the urge to stiff her was there as payback. I decided to tip her generously and let the past go. But I did leave a note next to the tip. Here's to believing that people do grow up after high school, and I signed it. Class of 20XX. The next day I got on Facebook, and she had sent me a message. She said she had recognized me, but I looked happy, so she said nothing and she treated me like any other customer. Then she apologized for anything she might have done to me in school. It was a hard time for her, and she didn't like to think about who she was then. Some bullies do grow up, and I'm glad we both did the right thing. I grew up in Northern California, and every summer a bunch of people take to the water and go tubing down the Sacramento River. A popular stopping place mid-end of the route is Buiiy Beach. It was here that I ran into this guy that was terrible in high school as I was docking my tube. Me, hey! Him in a clear, oh, I was awful to you, I should feign niceness, tone, hey, how's it going? Me, through gritted teeth, awesome. Him, pause, you fucking hate me, don't you? Me, surprised at his astute observation, yeah, I really do. Him, what would make you feel better and us to be cool? Me, if you let me shoot you in the face with this super soaker. Him, okay. Me, really? Him, and then we'll be cool? Me, yeah, we'll totally be cool. And then he let me shoot him in the face with a super soaker in a constant stream until it ran out of water. It felt amazing. He knew he deserved it. He took his punishment. We both laughed and hugged. Worth it. When I was a kid, I was fat. I used to get picked on all the time by this kid at church named Rusty. He was about 5 years older than me, and every couple of weeks he would beat me up. I moved away when I was about 14, and thankfully, I didn't have to deal with him anymore. When I went to college, I decided to get my act together and get healthy. To that end, I started taking mixed martial arts. I did it for about 2 years and lost about 40 pounds. When I graduated, I moved back to where I was from and started looking for a new MMA gym. I went to the most reputable one, and who should be there but Rusty? It sounds too good to be true, but I swear to God it happened. He hadn't changed a bit. The first thing he said to me was, "Finally trying to learn to defend yourself, huh?" I had called ahead and the instructor knew my deal and had arranged for me to come watch. I left my gear in the car. At the end of class, they do free rolling, jiu-jitsu sparring. Rusty comes up to me, having no knowledge that I am the least bit experienced, and starts begging the instructor to let him spar me, so he can show me the ropes. After all, he's been in MMA for 3 months now, and he never misses a UFC pay-per-view. I went outside and changed. Long story short, we sparred, and I choked him out 3 times. Afterwards I signed up for classes, he grabbed his bag, left, and never came back. This is my favorite story out of everything that has happened in my life thus far. I'm the only person I know that got to beat up my childhood bully as an adult. I was playing poker in Atlantic City about 7 years ago, and one of the guys that bullied me, Chad, sat at my table. There's no way he recognized me. I was actually playing on a no-limit hold'em table while waiting for a seat to open in a two-way high-low game. Anyway, I stayed at the no-limit hold'em table just to take his money. I played probably 95% of the pots he was in. He was pretty drunk and wasn't very good. I got close to $600 off of him in a little over an hour before he decided to quit. I have no idea what he does for a living, but I am 100% sure he is a big loser when he plays cards. I go into my mechanic to change my brakes. The usual milfy cashier offers me coffee. I make small talk, been going there forever, they're an honest car repair shop, believe it or not. Then I notice the guy hunched over a Honda. I call out. He turns, squints his eyes, goes, "Hugo fan?" I call him out on his behavior. He tells me he straightened up after mouthing off to the wrong person nearly cost him his life. He showed me a shank wound 3 centimeters under his heart. He's apparently happily finishing a course in auto repair and had just been hired at the garage. He turns out to be a nice guy, having sorted out his issues. I routinely bring him donuts when I bring the car in, and he gets me rebates because, dude, I brought donuts. I own my own gym and have for a few years now. I received a message one day from a familiar-looking name on the business Facebook page from a woman asking to come try us out. We set it up. She comes in for an introduction. She's a very, very large and out-of-shape woman at this point. After about 5 minutes of working with her, it hits me that this lady used to be about half her current size and was an absolute bitch in her heyday. I decided not to bring it up to her, as she appeared to be struggling in life and came to us in a time of need, and I took it, as I do with all of my clients, as a cry for help. Not to mention, I'm a grown man now, and that seemed pretty silly and insignificant in life today. Months later, during one of the classes, I noticed her struggling real hard, so I go over to offer some encouragement. As I lean down to say something to her, I notice she's crying faintly to herself. She looks up at me and quietly says, "Sorry for how nasty I was to you years ago, and thank you for doing this for me." Turns out an old mutual friend told her about my place, and she recognized me as the owner and came to me on purpose. No, not a story of revenge or retribution, but she reached out to someone she was terrible to, and today, she's repurposed, and I find it to be quite inspiring. About 10 years ago, I got a temporary job at Kroger. It was just stocking shelves, and I had another restaurant job lined up but needed something for about 2 months while I went through a lengthy hiring process there. So I go to get my check on my first payday at Kroger, and find out the manager at the front is one of the guys who used to bully the shit out of me in high school. He made small talk for a minute. "Hey, how you been? Good to see you." He clearly remembered. Once everyone walked away, he leaned in and said, "Hey, I'm really sorry for all the shit I did to you in school. I was a stupid a-hole kid." I smiled, held out my hand, thanked him, and told him it's all in the past. That was really cool. Ours was extremely smart and very athletic. He was an incredible wrestler and undefeated throughout high school. I saw him at a party at a friend's house randomly, and we caught eyes a few times, and eventually we just approached each other and said hello, exchanged bro hugs. Mind you, we hardly talked. The only time we really did was when I told him to stop picking on someone and told me he would kick my ass instead. He was a lovely guy. Anyway, he hadn't changed one bit. He tried to pick fights with people throughout the night and kept looking at me while he was in yelling matches with people. So I kept getting in between him and the other person, telling them both to calm down. This happened a few times until it started getting a little physical, and he looked at me again. So I stood up and he tried to push the guy one more time. So I grabbed him by his shoulders and started pushing him back, telling him to cool it, and I thought, what the fuck am I doing? He is an angry wrestler that can take me down. Once I got him back a ways and told him to knock it off, he just looked at me and said, "You know what I could do to that guy, but I don't want to. Please stop me." It was the saddest, hold me back bro moment I have ever been a part of. It was odd that he kept looking for me to stop his fights, but I was glad I was that guy for a bit. While reading this, I thought this whole scenario was going to culminate in you guys making out. Pushes bully into wall. "You know what I could do to that guy, but I don't want to. Please stop me." "Oh, I'll stop you alright. Kisses. The bully flinches initially, but realizes that this is what he wants. In fact, it's what he had always wanted. Now, the two men embrace in a fiery collision of passionate testosterone. Still locked at the lips, they half-drunkenly stumble through the nearby bedroom door. His wrestling moves sure came in handy that night. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.